Oscar is dying. This is a lot easier to type than it's going to be to say. Oscar's been our dog for more than 16 years now. In those years, he's run many, many happy miles back and forth across our backyard, running for the sheer joy of it, or playing his version of fetch, which involved picking up the ball but not actually ever bringing it back to us. He's used his short legs, he's a dachshund, and all of his 15 pounds to drag me on runs around our neighborhood, which I'm told from the outside looked hilarious. He's curled and curved his solid, warm little body into our laps and snuggled between us in bed on chilly mornings, often giving us a really good excuse to not get up quite yet. He's made us happy. I hope to all the gods that we've made him happy. I think we have. Now, I'm not saying it's been nothing but joy since he moved into our lives on that March day in 2001. Heck, it started out with trauma because he wouldn't go to the bathroom for the first 36 hours. We got to the point where I told him, you can go to the bathroom in the house. Just go to the bathroom already, little man. He's dug up plants in the yard. He left various unpleasant messes in the house on occasion. Scared the crap out of us by running away 4 or 5 times over the course of those years. Barked, barked, barked for no apparent reason, at least according to us, in the middle of the night, and found other ways to irritate and annoy us over the years. I guess that's love. And I suspect he has a few complaints that he would like to lodge himself. I'm sure he'd like to point out, for example, the distinct shortage of bacon in a house where the woman who does the grocery shopping is a vegetarian. And now, he's dying. I don't really know when. It could be days, weeks, maybe even months. He is stubborn. But it's inevitable. Of course, it's always been inevitable. I've always known that. I have a clear memory of waking up in a near panic one night when he was only 5 years old, knowing that this little guy that I loved so much was going to die someday. Now, though, that inevitability is so much more inevitable. Someday in the next, I don't know, and Amy and I will have to make the decision to take him to the vet for the last time. His days of running are long past. It takes a long time for his legs to limber up enough for him to even walk around the house these days. And when he does wander around the house, he can't see that well, but somehow manages to wedge himself into the tightest places, getting stuck, getting scared, because he is stubborn. There are a lot more messes for us to clean up. Every now and then our other dog, Olive, tries to play with him, and he just can't. It all kinda sucks. And about now, you're starting to think, this is the most depressing sermon on joy I have ever heard. Yeah, well, sorry about that. See, that's the thing about joy or happiness. It can be a bit complicated. People are not the happy little stone from Emily Dickinson's poem that rambles in the road alone and doesn't care about careers and exigencies, it never fears. We are not independent as the sun. We don't associate or glow alone, and we don't live in casual simplicity. Or at least, not the casual simplicity of a rock. We do care about careers, or at least having jobs. We do fear. We depend on each other, and we need one another, and that means we can hurt each other, be hurt by one another, be hurt by the loss of one another. We know that life can be unfair, that the universe can be, probably is, indifferent. We see hate and meanness and pettiness and apathy all around us. Hell, we are sometimes hateful and mean and petty or apathetic. As the alien narrator, Humans observes we are born, make some friends, get married, don't get married, have a child or two or don't, drink a few thousand glasses of wine, which I think is maybe on the low end, have sexual intercourse a few times, discover a lump somewhere, feel a bit of regret, wonder where all the time went, know we should have done it differently, realize we would have done it the same, and then we die. We know all this. And still, as that alien notes with some surprise, humans don't appear to spend their entire lives in a catatonic state. We find joy. We share joy. We are happy, at least some, maybe even much, maybe even most of the time. But why? How? Well, I'm not here to tell you that it's always easy. I'm not going to tell you that you just need to think happy thoughts, have a positive attitude, and you too can be happy all the time. It doesn't work that way. And you probably wouldn't want it to. I mean, do you really trust anybody who's happy all the time? As the Dalai Lama puts it, happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions. Great. That sounds all deep and wise when the Dalai Lama says it, but what does it really mean? What actions? That's a pretty good question, and I can't promise I have the answer. But I'm here to try and offer an answer because I think it's a question we need to ask if we are going to live up to the challenge we set for ourselves in our vision statement, when we challenged each other to be agents of joy. See, that's the line that sang out to me when the vision statement was first proposed. And not even because I thought we would all get cool secret agent names and gadgets. The idea that we would build into our faith, not merely the idea that we should be happy, but that we should be agents of happiness in the community and in the world, it grabbed me then and it holds me still. And why does it matter to me that we hold this challenge as an element of our faith? Because it matters to me that we are a faith, that we are woven into the religious fabric of our community and this nation. And because I agree with the theologian Paul Tillich that religion must reach beyond mere public opinion, offer more than the word everybody already has, every newspaper, every radio, every speaker. Religion, Tillich wrote, must be a spiritual sword cutting through all human enthusiasms and certainties and dignities, judging them, transforming them, transcending them. We are a religion. And so when we, as members of this church, commit to being agents of joy in the world, we commit to wielding Tillich's spiritual sword. And yes, I am fully aware of the fact that all I've done at this point is add Tillich's wise and deep-sounding words to those of the Dalai Lama. I have not yet answered the question. But this time I did it with a pretty nice metaphor. And to keep with that fancy metaphor, how exactly are we supposed to wield this spiritual sword to be agents of joy? Now, being agents of joy does not mean that we have to try to be constantly happy, or that we should expect other people to be giddy or joyful all the time. It certainly doesn't mean we should be trying to press joy or happiness on people. What it does mean, I believe, is that we challenge ourselves to always stay open to the possibility of joy. To leave room for happiness in our lives and in our hearts and in the world. To take it in when joy presents itself, to share it when we can, to not shut it out, and to not analyze it into a catatonic state. This all sounds obvious, but I don't think we're always really great about living our lives that way. In the play Harvey, the lead character Elwood tells the therapist that his mother once told him, "You can be oh so smart, or you can be oh so pleasant." And Elwood said, "For a long time I chose smart. But I like pleasant better. I don't think we have to choose. But I think, and maybe it's because I hang out with a lot of UUs, so this is what I see. But we have a tendency to kind of act like we do. Not that we're unpleasant, but to choose between smart and happy. Because we can analyze things into a catatonic state like nobody else I know, except maybe lawyers. We question whether joy or happiness is appropriate, whether we should let ourselves feel it, whether other people are feeling or showing it at the right time or in the right way, whether the thing that happens to be making us happy right now is really something we should be letting make us happy in the first place. Let me give you a silly example. Sister Hazel is a band out of Florida. They write and perform energetic songs, often with kind of sappy and simplistic lyrics. And every time I put in one of their CDs, I did this Friday as I was working on this song, every time I put in one of their CDs, I get happier. I sing along, I dance around the house, there is no video. And then, damn near every time, I catch myself, and I think something like, I can't let anybody know about this. I mean, this band isn't nearly cool enough for me to like it this much. And this is one of the self-critical, or the type of self-critical, over-analytical nonsense. Over-analytical, there we go. We're up against if we want to meet the challenge of being agents of joy. We have to get over ourselves and just enjoy joy. Part of the problem, I think, is that we treat joy as a scarce resource. We act as if joy should be carefully doled out, reserved for the right moment, or in my example, the right bands. But it isn't scarce. Joy is that rare resource that just makes more of itself the more there is. As the Buddha said, thousands of candles can be lighted from a single candle, and the life of the candle will not be shortened. Happiness never decreases by being shared. Shared here should be taken in two ways. Sharing by giving away, but also sharing by letting others light our candle, by accepting. That second one can be hard, because to do it, we may have to resist the urge to judge, overcome our own discomfort that might show up because other people don't express their joy or happiness in the same ways that we do. I have another music-related example. Amy and I were at a music festival this summer with thousands of other music fans over in Eau Claire. One of those fans, perhaps the most fanny of those fans, was Boogie Cat. Not his real name, I assume. Somebody gave him the name during the 2 days of the festival, and it fit because that cat did boogie. In his dark shades that were probably not cool when he bought them in 1983, and his brightly colored spandex, Boogie Cat struck his stuff in front of every stage, through the audience, arms waving, hips moving, head jutting. He was into it. He looked ridiculous, and he was having a great time. So, naturally, Amy and I and other people we talked to spent a fair share of our time making fun of him. And in our defense, he really was goofy. But it's kind of a lousy defense because so what? He was goofy. He was embarrassing himself, except I don't think he was embarrassed. He was embarrassing me, I guess, if I put myself in his shoes, which also were kind of goofy. But he wasn't hurting anyone. He wasn't keeping anyone else from having fun enjoying the bands. He was happy, and if I had been my best self those 2 days, I would have let him share that happiness with me. Been happy simply because another human being was being happy. And I guess in a sense, that's what we did. Laughing at Boogie Cat did make us happy at the time. But that is not the type of joy that I think we are called on or called to by our vision statement. That kind of joy is dangerously close to schadenfreude, joy at the misfortune and embarrassment of others. Something that Schopenhauer called devilish. What we're going for here, what we should be reaching for as agents of joy, is what Buddhists refer to as mudita. Just once, I would like somebody to come up with one of these terms in English. Mudita, unselfish joy. Finding joy in the happiness and the success of others. To experience that unselfish joy, we have to realize that joy abounds. That it is not a scarce resource. We have to stop thinking, even subconsciously, that somebody else is happy